Yo, yo, my name is Big Lou, and you are now listening to Go Produce. We're the show that explores how music industry professionals turn their passions into profit. If you want to form a creative community with a team, then this episode is for you. Thank you, Factor Canada, for funding part of this initiative. Today's theme is how does a group of individuals with varying skills form a successful creative collaborative? Let me introduce you guys the guests today. Today we've got 3 guests, special episode. We have Nookie, who is a hip-hop artist and creative director at Kingdom Studios from Stratford, who recently released his 7th EP last summer, which was titled, Well, Here We Are. After some personal growth, he maintains the belief that his days didn't change, but he did. Make sure to stay on the lookout for his future growth within the scene. Nookie works closely with BC, who is a recording and mixing engineer at Kingdom Studios and at Up All Night Sound. He managed to do some wild work right after finishing music industry arts program here in London, Ontario. Ashton dabbles with hip-hop, but his love lies with house music. He is the founder of Kingdom Records and Studios and oversees and manages all business operations within the label, while also helping the infusion of the arts and culture into the education of students within the Waterloo region. BC, Ashton, and Nookie, thank you so much for being here. I want you to know that we do appreciate your time, so let's make the most of it and go produce. Hey. All right. So we're going to start it off today with our first segment, the basics.
Okay.
Let's hit it. So the basics, we got to get a little shimmy in.
I'm with it.
I like to dance. I hope you guys do too. It's been a while since we've done any of this, so let's keep it going. Keep the energy up. What we're going to do in the basics is essentially try and learn a little bit more about you guys, try and figure out where you came from, what you're trying to do, so that we're all on the same page moving forward. Yes?
Fair enough.
All right.
Yeah.
So the first question that I typically ask is, what is your first musical memory? But because we've got a group of 3 people, I want to ask, what is your first musical memory of each other?
Ooh, okay. Well, I think so. Growing up in Stratford, we're both from Stratford, BC, and I.
Okay.
Stratford's small enough where you kind of know everybody, or at least you might not know them, but you know of them.
Yeah.
So I knew of BC for years. I knew he was sort of into music and dabbling, and we had a mutual friend I guess it was DAB.
Yeah.
DAB was recording with him, and I was mutual friends with them. So we connected, got in the studio, and he's recorded my very first project all the way up to my most recent one. So
Oh, wow.
we've been rocking together for, probably about 12 years, I would say.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
okay, continue.
I was saying, yeah, that'd be our story. Because, yeah, like we were working with these buddies from back home, and then he'd come through because he was featured on it, and he was doing a couple verses on a couple records. And then in that fall, he was planning to work on his own project. So he's like, well, do you want to record it for me? So I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And we kind of just hit it off from there. And the last 12 years have been a bit of a whirlwind.
There's the story there. Was there a moment in time when you're like, maybe I should put more energy into this person? Because you said it's a small community. There are obviously other people that you could have essentially continued to grow with. Why? What was that switch?
Yeah, why, Brian?
Yeah. Well, because he was such a dope rapper. I was like, man, this guy can actually like be something big. No, but like we always just had like a good relationship. Like we wanted to do like grandeur things.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be an engineer and producer. So we figured we could get closer to our goals working together than individually. But we always shared the same mindset about music, just even life in general. And I think like our music relationship just kind of grew our personal relationships. We always just spent time together. So it just became natural. And whatever he wanted to do, I was down with, and vice versa. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but that's just what it was.
I think something that kind of added to the whole synergy was that our trajectories were kind of in line. It's not like he had been tracking superstar levels and he had to come down to my level. And it's not like I was working with world-class, it wasn't like I was working with world-class engineers and now I had to go to a guy who was just starting his own home studio. It was like we were both here and we both grew together, which I think was a big part of it.
That's critical. A lot of people try and overshoot and be like, oh, I need to just hit the celebrity because that's going to be my one-hit break. Yeah. Continue to waste your time. It's okay. Do whatever you guys want to do. Ashton, how about you? How'd you get into this picture? What's your first musical memory of this group?
Oh man, I think I annoyed BC one time I met him. That was my first major thing. But I met the guys years ago, and starting out as a producer, I wanted people to get on my beats. I'm like, hey, get on my beats, and Obviously I met Nucky, and he was just crazy. I was like, wow, like what an honor. And so he went on them, and at the time, my beats were dusty, but he still took a chance on them and went on them. And BC, obviously, with his skills, engineering. First and foremost, I'm a producer. That's my foundation.
Yeah.
And I just watched him and just annoyed him in the studio a lot. Just like, hey, asking him questions like, hey man, like how do you do that? Like, how do I make this sound bigger? How do I make this hit harder? Like, teach me. And he put up with it. But that's my first real memory, just in the studio with them. At the very beginning, right, and just building, and it's blossomed into this. And we've done so many things together and put out records. Recently, we just dropped a record actually this past weekend.
Mm-hmm. This past weekend.
So
man, I tried to do my research ahead of time, but I couldn't keep up with everything that you guys are doing, so I'm gonna have to check that out afterwards. We'll put that in the show notes too, so that everyone else can make sure to be familiar with the work.
For sure.
You're talking about being very lucky to have someone that you can just bombard with questions, and obviously, Nucky, you were willing to spend the time to help develop someone else. That is very critical, especially because you each have your different strengths. But now I want to take it back a step further and be like, hey, what was the first lesson you gained from each other while working? So we know how you met. What did you teach each other?
I would say number one, before music, it was personal, the relationship. It's just life. I think that's so critical, being in music and working with people around you. It's like you can really talk about anything. We can talk about, our struggles. We can talk about, what we're going through, right? So that obviously makes things better creatively when we get working together. And I think that's important with the youth and people coming up, that you can, have a relationship and build that bond. But musically, it was just like, really, when I was doing production, I come from an electronic background. I'm a house music producer. So I like to put a lot of things into my beats. And I remember both of them were saying, hey, like kind of like strip it back a bit. Don't put too much. Leave it open, let it breathe a bit, right? And that's something that I've always carried into, especially doing hip hop production.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So I could say that's something that I really remember. And with BC specifically, just, don't redline everything.
Oh my God. He just loves it hot.
Cool it down a bit.
Yeah.
It's a phase. It's a phase I'm pretty sure most people go through, producers, and it's all part of the learning process too. That's awesome. Any lessons from the two of you gentlemen?
Yeah, I would say I kind of piggybacks off of what Ashton was saying with, just like in an actual friendship, trust is a huge thing. So creatively, like BC was saying earlier, when we started working together, he knew not to, hey, Nucky's the writer, he's the artist. I'm not going to delve into that. The same way I wasn't trying to look over his shoulder and nitpick his mixes. I was like, I trust that he knows more about it than I do. So I think just developing that natural trust is something you have to have if you're really going to create the best content that you can possibly create.
Was that scary at all? Trusting someone so much so?
No, it was super natural, I think, for us.
Yeah.
It was super natural. I think possibly because we're both open-minded, though. So if I did have a suggestion, I knew he would at least listen to it, even if I was way wrong. And I was like, hey, turn this up or boost that up 3 dBs. He might know that, no, it's a terrible idea. But at least I knew that I knew that he was open-minded enough to take it in.
Right.
And I didn't have to feel like I was being judged or anything like that. And I'm sure he felt the same way.
Yeah, like to kind of like echo what he was saying. Because like I remember like when we did our first project together, I think I knew when he was legit. Because like I remember I charged him, I can't remember. I was going through the emails actually. I charged him whatever for the project. And when I was done with it, like I just wasn't happy. I was like, oh, like these mixes sound so dusty. Like, man, like the music's so good, but like I feel like I didn't do it justice. And he's like, don't even worry about it. This is like the first of many that we're going to do. And it's all part of the process. And then like at that point, I was like, no, like this is like a legit guy.
And, there it is. Yeah.
It's just trusting each other, right? And now he's probably like, oh my God.
That's
but
awesome.
I think he's gotten it back tenfold now. So.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
I
So
owe this guy my life, man.
It's cool. It's cool. You have to do these little tests almost to experience the trust and to build that trust. Is there something else that you would suggest to a group in order to build this trust if they didn't have as much as a background as you guys, the whole 12-year story, getting up and finding your group? How do you generate that trust more rapidly? I know it takes time as well, but what do you look for?
I think like so from my perspective as like, like the engineer producer, it's like you need to work with a wide range of people, right? So you can understand different personalities and traits and styles because that's how you kind of get a feel for people. And I think that's like an important thing as an engineer. Like you need to understand people and like what makes them tick and how they operate and what sets them off because obviously you need to work with as many people as you can to build up your portfolio and stuff. But through there, you kind of figure, okay, like I just vibe with this person better than this person and stuff. And I think just the more and more you understand people, that's how you kind of start finding the right people. And that was always like something I think we all believe in. It's like, you know, you do right by people, and, you know, whoever you vibe and connect with most is how you're going to get to the end goal quicker. And I guess another part of it too is like, you didn't want to focus on the money. That wasn't like the big thing. Obviously, you know, you need to make money in this, but it was doing it for the art and the love. And like, I just knew how passionate he was about his music. Yeah. So that got me passionate about it. And I think that's why we've done so well.
It's electrifying
since the start.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. What firsts are you pursuing as a team and individually?
Sorry, say that again. Which?
Are there any firsts? Like, you just released your 7th EP last summer, I should say. Is there anything that you're working on that truly excites you? That's your first, either individually or as a group?
I think we're all really looking forward to touring when COVID, you know, kind of settles down. You know, that's something that, for me, anyways, as a performer, and he was my hype man too. A lot of people who would know us from the Toronto scene. Yeah. This guy was with me at every single show.
That's very important. It's very important for an MC to have a hype man or a DJ even. I mean, I read
and the cool thing was, because he worked on my music all the time, he knew where all the pockets were, where all the ad-libs were, where I was going to need a breath. He knew everything like that. So it was a natural synergy on stage. But I think we're really looking forward to touring. That's really where our heart lies, is getting out in front of people, performing, feeding off that energy. And we're really looking forward to that aspect of music, again, once COVID settles down.
Yeah. We're waiting. We're all waiting. There's a countdown in our minds, and we don't even know when the end is there, but we're all just counting. Anyway, that's very interesting. We're definitely very much looking for touring. When you do start touring, I will be sure to attend these shows and learn and grow from all that's the experience that you have. That is a wrap up of our first segment. So our fourth segment of today is called What's Your Take? I quite enjoy this one. The reason I enjoy this one is because we throw kind of questionable comments, ideas, concepts to you, and essentially we want to tear apart your perspectives. Not tear apart, but like let them shine and really dive into them, see how we can learn from any of these kinds of things, because they are a little bit ridiculous. Make sense?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Having experience in other lanes within this industry is not beneficial to your career. What do you guys think? What's your take?
Oh, I disagree with that. Like, they're saying, like, stay focused. Like, if you're an artist, just stick with artistry.
Right.
No, I totally disagree with that. Explore your creativity in all ways.
Yeah, and how do you do that? Like, if you want to rap, you should learn about production. You should learn about mixing, mastering, just to understand it, or you should fully do it for yourself. How does that work?
I think if you love it, you realize it's all one and the same. You know, like at the end of the day, rapping is about making a song. Making a song includes more than just rapping. So you have to look at the engine. Not to say that you have to like I don't jump into Pro Tools. I let him do that. I don't jump into the mixes, but I understand what he's doing when he's changing things. And I think at the end of the day, that definitely benefits the whole creative process as a whole.
Now,
I think if you love it, no matter what you're doing, if you really truly love it, you're going to be interested in that anyway. So it's not like you're forcing yourself to learn photography or how to do music videos or engineering. You still love rapping. That's still priority number one. Right. But if you love it, you're going to be interested in all the facets. At least I am. So I can only speak from my personal experience.
Is there a possibility of ever doing too much, spreading yourself too thin, and not focusing enough on the rap, for example?
I would agree with that. I'll let these guys talk. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for sure. Because it's good to have overall like experience in everything, because it helps what your main thing is. But if you're trying to send a million emails a day, trying to get yourself out, maybe get a manager to do that or something like that, right? But sometimes you can spread yourself too thin. You can lose your focus of what you're trying to do, and next thing you know, you're not doing your foundation, right? So you got to be able to come back to it.
At what point do you draw the line? Like, where do you decide something is not worth your time? You need to either hire someone out or do something.
Like, I think when you find yourself reaching at a plateau, like you've maximized where you can take your efforts with anything. Like, so for me, like when I got into music, like obviously, like, I was like, let's make a rap album. Like that's what I did with some buddies growing up. But then it was sort of like I had a computer. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll record it. And then I I started doing that and I got into the whole mix thing. And then we're like, okay, well, we want to be more original with it because we were just downloading beats off the internet. So I was like, okay, well, I have a computer. I might as well start making beats. So then I just got into making beats. And then the more and more as I was doing that, I was like, I liked rapping, but then I was like, I like producing and engineering more. So I kind of started going more that way. And then as I kept building up, then, you start working with other artists. And as we started building like a business and stuff, I'm kind of jumping ahead. It's like, you can't focus on, understanding, EQ, compression, dynamics to delay, reverb, all that stuff, understanding Pro Tools, the DAW, then writing raps and trying to find artists to work with. And then, doing emails, doing marketing, all that stuff. Like you just can't, you can't do it all. So you're like, okay, I need to start contracting things out. And you'll find out when you start delegating things, that's how you actually push the needle and go further ahead.
Right.
And I think to answer your question of when do you draw the line, I think when whatever it is that you're doing, we'll go back to Ashton's example. When you're sending emails, maybe you do really enjoy the administrative side of things, but when you stop enjoying it, that's when you just shift lanes to another focus. Where as soon as you stop enjoying it, as soon as you start being a little bit unhappy doing it, as soon as it starts to feel like a drag, just switch lanes. It's really, really simple for me.
Mm-hmm. Growth, monitor your growth too, right? It's all about that as well. I think
I agree.
Seeing results, then hey, you're doing your thing. But if you don't see it moving, keep doing the same thing over and over again, expect different results, right? Like that's kind of on you, right? So that can be debated, but I think it's about growth as well.
It is growth. Do you ever find that when you're doing something, say you jump into a specific niche and you find that maybe I thought I really wanted to do this, but I do want to try something else, but I feel like I'm giving up on myself if I switch over. Have you ever experienced that?
Not personally, but I could see how some people would, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
And how do you balance business side versus creative? Is this something that you juggle amongst the three of you?
Yeah, for sure. I think probably BC more than anyone, because he's the one who has to lock in with artists from all spectrums. So there's certain artists where it doesn't matter, or certain groups of artists, whatever. I'm not talking about anyone in specific, but some people are just more difficult to work with. So there's certain artists that where it's like, you know what, last time, or even me as a photographer or video guy, there's times where I'm like, you know what, you couldn't pay me enough money to go work with that person again just because, just don't have the right vibe or just too much, whatever it is, So you really kind of have to draw that line where it's like, okay, yes, I need to pay bills and you got car insurance and cell phone bills and all that stuff. But at some point, if you consistently put yourself in positions where you're working with people that aren't giving you anything back on a human level, doesn't matter how much money you're making because you're still sacrificing way more than whatever money you're getting.
Yeah, 100%. It's a lot of energy, and that energy stays with you, and it affects what you do with the rest of your day, and it carries through. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree. You gotta focus on happiness, health, that kind of stuff. Money comes and goes, but I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. What's your take on this? It's not okay to have bad days or to take breaks. If you can't handle it, you can't handle it.
That's a bad mindset to have because you're going to wear yourself out. And, we've been through that. Like, we've been through the ringer and, put in long days, weeks, months, and it ends up being a detriment to yourself because it actually affects your creativity, your personal life, your physical life, all that type of stuff. You need to take breaks, gain perspective, get away from yourself and have new experiences because that's what's going to funnel back into your music and help you be more creative and stuff. So, yeah, you don't want to burn yourself out. And think about like a car. If you drive your car every day, all the time, things are going to break down, right? And you're going to have to do maintenance on it. So you got to give it breaks. Self-care is so important.
Mm-hmm. How do you...
Mental health too.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, sorry, your mental health too. To make sure you take care of that. That's
very critical. I know you mentioned meditation. Are there any other practices that you would recommend to manage that stress? Because when you're starting, I know you almost have the mindset of I need to work more. I can't really take a break because other people are working. And if they're making progress, then I'm falling behind. But it is also important to rest because you become more effective. What do you recommend in terms of rest and other methods to maximize your efficiency when you are active?
Whatever you're working on professionally, creatively, whatever it is, life is to me, whenever you're engaged in something, it's constantly about the state that you're in. So I know for me, excuse me, is I'm healthier when like just I'm more effective and efficient when I'm physically healthy, when I'm mentally healthy, when I'm rested, when I'm eating right. So me taking 8 hours of sleep and probably doing more effective work than some guy who's only sleeping 2 hours a night, but half of his day is not productive because he's not in the right frame. So it's very holistic for me personally. So I think like getting to bed at a reasonable hour, the types of foods that you eat, not to say that you have to be like insane and counting all your calories and, you know, micromanaging all the micronutrients and carbs and sugars and cholesterol. You don't have to go that deep, but just don't eat like shit all the time, you know?
Yes, I agree.
So little things like that.
Do you ever set times as a group for when to be productive? I guess maybe schedules so that you hold each other accountable?
I like yes and no. Like we all have our own different schedules because we have like so many moving parts going on too, right? And like it's tough to balance it all because we have our own personal endeavors,
right?
But then there's things that Nucky and I have going on. There's things that Ash and I have going on. There's things that they have going on. So we're always constantly managing it, but then we also respect each other's time. So
of course,
a lot of things overlap, but we always are, I guess, aware of each other and respectful of each other. Not like being like, hey, I need this now. Like, where are these files? Or like, what's going on with this session? Like, so we respect each other. And I guess because we just have natural boundaries that we know that, okay, yeah, like I play hockey and stuff like that. So they know like Saturday nights, you're not bothering me. Like,
he says he plays hockey. Plays hockey is very loose.
What, a beer league?
Oh yeah, I'm all about it.
Third liner.
You need to entertain, so you got to entertain the group there, you know, and then skate around a bit too.
Yeah,
that's like a locker room guy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a room guy. Positive energy. I get the boys amped up before the game, right?
Very important. Very important.
Yeah.
With
but
all
like, yeah, like you know, yeah. To like, and my last point, just like yeah, like we're all respectful of each other, and we know that okay, like everyone has like their own things going on, so we just try to be mindful of that. And I think that's what makes things efficient.
Being mindful is sometimes easier said than done.
True.
How do you, with all of these moving parts, how do you ensure deadlines are met?
Prioritizing. Like, so I'm very highly organized with how everything I do, from session management to scheduling to stuff. And Ashton will attest to this. So, you know, I'm always on him a lot about like, no, we got to get this done because I need this here and da-da-da-da-da. So it's just like, you know, writing out a schedule, you know, prioritizing most important to least important, and then you know how to tick things off because it's all in front of you.
Right. Exactly. The visual aspect, writing things down. No matter how good your memory is, write the things down, my people. It's very true. It's very true.
I don't slip. My system is integral. It is. You can't break it. It's impenetrable.
I think it comes from his MIA background. You know, the stuff that he learned in MIA, just that discipline, that attention to detail, how you label stems. Like you go to this guy's room and everything's color coordinated. He's got everything hung up in certain spots. And even if I go down and I move something, which I've done before, he'll come down and
he notices
something's off. Like he's so
meticulous.
But meticulous. I'll use the word meticulous.
That's awesome. So because of this crazy organizational ability and skill, would you say BC is the operations manager for the group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks to the left, looks to the right. They agreed. Yeah, cool. That's hilarious. Very nice. I like that. I want to move a little bit more towards local talent and our communities. What's your take on this? Promoting and supporting local talent is not valuable. It is not a valuable way to spend your time. What do you think?
False.
Disagree. Disagree wholeheartedly.
Just hard nose across the board.
Yeah.
Why?
Absolutely.
What are benefits that you may find from supporting local talent?
Well, you know, as a record label, right, you have to be looking in your backyard. Sometimes you could be finding the hottest next thing right in your city, right? They don't need to be from Texas or Europe. They could be right in your city. So, you know, having a studio here that we're around a lot of artists. We build relationships. You know, we see the talent developing, right? And you know, I think it's our duty, to give back and to cultivate that talent, right? For example, we had a kid in here this past year that he's on Billboard right now, number 25 on the alternative rock charts, and if you're not looking, you'll miss acts like that, or you won't see that, and you won't help them get to the next potential. And honestly, the more acts that come out of your city locally, the more eyes that come from the industry and the more opportunities there are for other talented acts within your community to really take it. You know, we've always said that this area is the next like Atlanta or Miami because there's so much talent. And it's such
GTA
an area. No, not to GTA. I think the Kitchener-Waterloo region, Cambridge, from Stratford to Waterloo, Kitchener, there's so much talent, right?
Wow. That's a pretty big 100%. Statement, though. The next ATL up north?
It is.
It already is?
I would include the GTA in that, too.
Yeah. Just for now? Okay, interesting.
KW is kind of like GTA in a lot of ways, you know?
And so, okay, I'm curious now about your opinion on London. Is London at all in that radar? Or are we underrated as well? Because we got a lot of facilities, educational facilities that really boost our ratings.
I think London's underrated, man. London's always had, like, there's so much talent in London. I haven't been to London in a long time, but I know, like, my cousin is actually from London. And you know, obviously, Casper, I'm sure.
Yeah.
My cousin's K-Mac. I don't know if you remember K-Mac at all.
I haven't met him personally.
Yeah, so he's my cousin. He does a ton of work with Casper.
Oh, jokes.
There's a good scene there. And I know, like, you know, obviously there's a scene there whether it's hip-hop or EDM. Angels went there, 2 years ago? Yeah, so they're filling up venues.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a market there, and that goes a long way too. Is there a market to support it? And clearly in London there is. So I would say London is underrated.
Fair. Well, we'll see. We'll see how we develop, how both of these regions develop. When you do find artists in this area, do you ever find that you struggle on your opinion on them? Like, oh yeah, this person's good, but I don't think this person's good. Like, you guys have a little quarrel between yourselves and be like, do I want to work with them or not?
It's very subjective because, like, you know, everybody likes different things. So for me, it's just, I've always find like I'm always biased too. The stuff I work on, I like it because I worked on it. Like, it's weird.
Fair.
I'm like,
that's fair.
Yeah, I like it because I work on it.
Yeah.
But I try not to leave it up to myself to be the determiner of that, right? Like, you let the fans and people who listen to the music say, like, yes, whether this is good or not. Because who am I to judge or determine that?
Fair. That's a good point. But at the same time, I'm wondering, is there a checklist that you have for these young artists when they're coming in before you decide to actually work with them? Are there anything that they do that you don't want? What do you look for?
Well, first thing, it's like personality, right? So, like, before any artist, like, I get on a call with them, and, like, this is, like, you know, something Ash and I have done. Like, we at least talk to them first, because a lot of people see the things that we have and the stuff that we're doing. So, like, oh man, like, I want to work with you. Like, how do I work with you?
Yeah.
So before I do anything, it's always having a phone call, because you just want to, like, catch a vibe, and it's like, could we compute? Like, do I want to have a beer with this person? Like, I want to have that feeling with them, and then I'm more likely to work with them. And I think from there, if you feel like you have a good vibe, then, like, I'm always open to making music, because, you know, there's things that you're going to teach them. And one of the things that I love working with people is, like, that feeling of, like, you took their idea and brought it to reality.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are like, oh, I just want to get in and do this or that. But then you're like, no, when you actually see what we can create, that's, like, the beauty. And I just love that feeling when they're like, man, like, I can't believe you just did that. So
it's true.
I think there's a lot of different boxes that you sort of look at when you're talking with an artist, and they don't have to necessarily check off every box at that time, but could they? You know, so for us, you know, like you said, personality and vibe is so important. And I tell this to young artists sometimes is, you know, if you're a 3 out of 10 on the talent scale, that's fine. Because I know that you give us 8 months with you, 12 months with you. I know that we can take you from a 3 out of 10 to at least a 7.5 out of 10 in like a year.
It's
maybe
a huge leap.
8 out of 10. But what I can't do is, if you're difficult to work with and other people around you, you just have like a certain abrasiveness to your personality. I can't make you be a cool person. Like, that has to be something that you already have.
Yeah.
And you got to be looking at that from the, you know, the consumer and fan base perspective as well. Like, are you going to be the guy that just rubs people the wrong way? So we kind of got out of the realm of, like, hey, let's just have, like, a space where they can book out hourly and anybody can come through here. Now we're like, let's be a little more selective with who we bring in here. And yeah, absolutely.
Especially in this day and age, you know, the generation's canceling everyone. So if you got a poor personality, you are out. Do you have any examples of a phone call that you may have had where someone just, they shit the bed, for lack of better terms, and no names necessary, but, like, what happened on that phone call?
I think you guys got planned.
Well, even last week alone.
Which one?
Well, even last week alone, we were on a call with a guy, and we were kind of just explaining our process of how we do things. Like, from recording is one phase, and then, you know, obviously editing's a phase, and then mixing's a phase. But the guy's like, well, I only I got to master or record and master the songs all in one session. And he's like, I like to do it then because I don't know if the engineer is going to like catch my vibe and things like that. But we're like, no, like, I understand that. But it's like, no, we have our own system set in place. So you already know you can kind of get these vibes off the top. And they're like, I don't like to do it like this, or I don't like to do it like that. And when people start having like that kind of arrogance or that attitude or that energy, I already know like, that's probably not the person I want.
Yeah. And that's fine to a point where you can be like, hey, I like to work this way, but in this case, the guy was like, nope, like this is what we're doing. and we're open. We can modify things. We can, work toward like what is good for you too, because, that's what collaboration is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But at this situation, it wasn't like that.
You just tell,
thank you, sir. Go find your own studio to do work at.
Yeah. Exactly. You called us.
Yeah. That's the best part. I like that. I think we really hashed out the importance of finding local talents within your community, collaborating, working with them. You guys are living proof that you have to start with people that are at your level, that have the same drive and have the same direction that you want to go, and then grow from there, flourish together. Don't necessarily reach for the Drake of the time, reach for the Kanyes. You can try, but that's probably less valuable of a way to spend your time. Beautiful. Thank you for that segment, guys. Our next and final segment is called Clear the Air. This is when people really wake up and they realize, I could do this with myself once we clear the air, because there's a lot of shroud in mystery when you try and approach this industry. So that's exactly what we're going to do, okay? A couple of questions to open that up. First, I want to start off with, what kinds of issues can you expect throughout the various stages when developing a creative facility between a team? I can repeat that question if you like.
Yeah, one more time.
What kinds of issues can you expect throughout the various stages when developing a creative facility between a team?
Just operations, I guess scheduling, right? So here at the studio, we have the music studio, we have the photography studio, we have a rehearsal space. Within those three aspects of the facility, there's so many things that can happen in each part. So I would say just, being organized, and that's why having BC here, he's able to kind of coordinate all these things at one time to make it flow nice. With scheduling, so we're gonna have double bookings. Let's say somebody's shooting audio in the photography studio, but we can't obviously have the music studio blasting with our speakers going off, right? So it's just little things like that go such a long way. Especially in COVID times, right? You have to make sure that, you're organized. You can't just have people walking in and out and whatnot, right? So we make sure we're strict with that. But, I would say it's difficult, but,
and you're going to adjust along the way. You're going to get frustrated at times, like certain things just don't work out, or, miscommunication or something. You got to trust that the process will refine itself as you go on. Like your first month open is not going to be operating the same as when you're a year and a half into it. You're going to refine things and make things a little bit smoother. But through to get to that point, you got to go through some of the rough patches. So you guys got to be patient with it.
So patience is huge. Organization is huge. Yep. I've got a question on the organization and for scheduling. Is there a specific program that you use that makes all of this easier?
At first, we were able to book online and whatnot, but we wanted to go more of a client-to-client basis.
Okay.
And really talk with them about their project. So right now it's just, we talk with them and then we figure out the dates, we figure out exactly what the project's going to be. And then, we have our calendar. We're organized with that. We have each section of the business laid out and it's organized with that in terms of blocks. And
so it's more so back and forth emailing until you confirm a date. Then you enter that into the calendar and you make sure that the calendar is organized, color-coded, whatever.
Yeah,
exactly.
But you've never figured, or you never tried to a different scheduling app like Calendly or whatever the case may be for simplicity.
We used to use Bookio.
Yeah.
That was a great, it was a great app. And, but again, our foundation is we want it to be personal, right? We like people just to book. Obviously, it's here. We want the community to be able to book, but we want to make sure that when you come in, we're giving you the best, right?
Got you.
Where we know what your project's about. We know exactly what you want. And so when we know more information, when we know a little bit more about you too, we can come at it at the best possible way.
Bless it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Bless it.
That's dope. It makes sense. It's more intimate, and this way ahead of time what you're getting into as well, almost, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
100%.
What about task management, delegations? Do you have a system for that?
I don't want to necessarily there's a system. It's just so natural between us that we just know. We know that, hey, if this is coming in, all right, Nucky. Or we're just coming in like, okay, I can take this, or ABC, or hey, all three of us, we'll work on this.
Right. It's established.
I guess we just know that.
And that's where that trust comes in, where I know if Ashton says, hey, Nucky, I need you to meet with these people, he knows that he can just tell me, and then it's, set it and forget it, because he knows I'm not going to mess it up. He knows I'm going to be on point with what I got to do. And I say something to BC, hey, I need this done by this day. I know that once I leave it with him, he's good.
It's good.
At the very least, if it's not going to work, he's going to let me know, and then I can, go back.
Of course.
And,
that's awesome. You have to be people that are of your word. I mean, that's the quickest way to generate trust. And I think for people who struggle with that, a good way to practice that is to be true to yourself and maintain the promises that you keep to yourself before you keep promises to other people. That's one way to do that better.
Yep.
Awesome. If you are able to foresee problems within your group, how do you go about navigating them?
We're honest.
Call them on their shit.
Call them on it.
Yes.
We just talk about it.
Yep.
Waste no time. Address the situation.
I cut right to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then afterwards, grab a beer and have a good time. No hard feelings.
Yeah. I think we've all been in situations where, whether it's like a hockey team or a basketball team or a studio in the past, where it's like there's a dynamic where you feel that you can be honest with certain people, but you can't speak up to others.
Right.
And then it creates this really weird thing where it's like, if you got to vent something, then people are going behind each other's backs and saying stuff. And it's just, that creates a terrible environment. You have to be upfront. You got to be comfortable with the guys that you're with, or girls that you're with.
Yeah.
And just be on that same page. And, that's actually, I was reading Nick Nurse's book, the coach of the Raptors, and he talks about in his office, he has a little brass elephant on his desk, and that's the elephant in the room. So if he has something that he needs to discuss, with a player or an assistant coach or some other member of management, he brings them in and he says, I brought you in here because of this. And he points at the elephant, and then he gets right to it.
Yeah.
And then, it's always better that way.
That's very interesting.
Deal with it, man. Deal with it.
It's true. You have to deal with it, and it kind of makes it obvious because it takes the visual, so the person almost expects that coming in. But do you have any other tips or strategies for young professionals that could possibly apply that when confronting their teams? Like it's nerve-wracking. Even sometimes I will be a little nervous.
I think coming from a place of compassion and understanding that every person has their own individual personal goals, which is another thing Nick Nurse talks about, is like, obviously he's coaching a team, so it's about team success.
Right.
But within the team, everyone also has their own individual goals. So if you're talking with an artist or a photographer or an engineer or something, understand like, hey, I'm explaining this to you because this is going to help you in the long run. It helps the whole team, yes, but it also helps you. So making them understand why it's valuable for them to take in that information without necessarily, putting up a brick wall and being closed off and feeling personally attacked. You have to let them know like, hey, this is nothing personal, whether it was you or a different engineer. I would be saying the same thing. This has nothing to do with you. This is what we need to do, and kind of go at it from that, because it's never personal.
That's awesome.
Like if I say something to Ashton or BC, it's not because it's them specifically that did something wrong. It's like, hey, this usually it is. But yeah, you gotta understand people. It's just much about working with people as it is a creative endeavor.
That is very true. Very true. Now, you're mentioning that you have to stay aligned in terms of your goals because that's how you move together. And in order to have these conversations, you can remind each other it's for the greater good. What was the moment that you all decide together that you realized that you were all in it together for the greater good on your individual goal? What was that individual goal, and what was the moment that you decided?
I think the individual goal was just to continue doing music at a high level. And we were all together in a previous situation that wasn't really working out for not just us, but really for many people involved at all. And we decided to leave, but we'd also decided at that point individually that this isn't the end of our musical journeys. We're going to keep going. And it just happened that we all vibed together. Well, me and him for sure, because we've been together for like 13 years at that, or 12 years. And then Ashton was a natural fit because we always had that vibe with him. So when we all sort of splintered off into a different group, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like a big plan where like we were planning this for years and months. Like, let's leave these guys. And it wasn't anything like that. It was just like, hey, Ashton left. He's doing his thing. Me and BC are doing our thing. Let's link back up with Ashton. And then things just kind of organically grew out of that.
That's awesome. Did you, during that time, did you ever feel like you were ignoring something else or dismissing something else that you may have been working on? Or was it a smooth transition? Essentially, any sacrifices that you had to make in order to get to here? for this specific group.
Whole careers have been sacrificed.
Yeah, you have to. You put a lot on the line to do this.
You put your ego to the side. You got to put a lot of things to the side to admit when you're wrong. Things like that. Because, like I said, in the previous situation, we all probably hung on a little too long. Because we didn't want to face the fact that maybe the situation wasn't working out. You kind of you're like, you put so much into it that you're like, please, this is gonna work out. Like we're one step away from like just breaking the levee open, and then everything we always wanted is gonna come to us. But sometimes you're like, all right, maybe this levee ain't breaking. Maybe it's time to separate. Maybe I got to face this myself. And accept that. Take the L and move on. And that's what we did. And we're way better off for it in all aspects.
Take the L. It's not a loss. It's a lesson.
Absolutely, man.
Yo, someone write that down.
Oh, deep.
That's awesome. And we've got a lot of individual goals. You said personal projects between two of you, projects amongst all of you, even people outside of that. What is the greatest struggle between balancing all of your personal outside music, not music projects, with music projects? So meditation, health, diet. How do you allocate specific time and energy to that?
You have to force yourself to do it.
Yeah.
You have to write it down. Personally, it's, there's not enough time in the day, right? For all of us, there's not enough time in the day. And you can go a full day without eating. You can just be working on a project for 6-7 hours. And, next thing you know, you didn't work out, you're feeling crappy. Maybe you had pizza, right? It's something not good. Fast, so I think just like, organizing it and scheduling it out and be forceful with it. And, obviously we're both in the business side of it and on the creative side of it. So, I would say like scheduling time to get in that creative zone, put the lights down, turn your phone off, kind of maybe take 20 minutes just to get into that zone. Right. But yeah.
At the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do. If they really, 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 really want to do it, they're going to make time for it. So I know that everyone's, even a good excuse, and I learned this from like a spiritual friend, was like, even a good excuse, a legitimate excuse, it's still just an excuse at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So people are going to make time to do what they really want to do. Otherwise, maybe you don't really want to do it because you want to do whatever it is you're doing even more.
Yeah. That's a good question I like to ask myself is, are you committed or are you interested? Because that's where you're going to make that decision to do what you got to do, even when you don't want to, because that's the game changer. That's the moment in time. Do you have any advice for young professionals who want to start a business together? I know we spoke about this a little bit in terms of like experimenting and getting a feel for different people out there, but how do you develop yourself before you get to that stage?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
With working with other people, coming together as a business, like starting a business with other people.
Yes.
Have rules. Know what your rules are. Know that business is business, personal is personal. Be able to separate that. But obviously, having a personal relationship, you wouldn't, if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be going in the business. But make sure those boundaries and make sure that's clear.
It's a lot of inner work, eh?
Just
choose your crew wisely.
That's a good point.
Understand people are going to come and people are going to go. I think that's one of the reasons why, like, even like huge, massive bands, if you go to the Wikipedia page, it's like, oh, this drummer was replaced by this drummer from this band. It's like, especially when you're younger, and again, using the band as an example, when you're 17, yeah, sure, everyone's committed to like this one goal of making it, going on tour, selling records. But as soon as you, like, let's say you're 23 and now one guy's been in a relationship for 5 years and he's kind of feeling pressure, maybe he wants to get married, and all of a sudden his priorities have changed. So you got to be able to adjust on the fly and respect that and say, cool, man, that's your journey. You go on that journey.
Yeah.
And then we will find a replacement, but the journey still goes on.
Yeah. And it can happen to other people that join your journey, and you can be the person that leaves someone else's journey. It can happen both ways too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Once you do find the group or the original group, or it doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be the final group. But when you do find that group, how do you structure the ownership?
I think when it comes to, for us, for example, when we do like publishing and publishing splits, for me, it's always just been like, if 3 people worked on the song, it's 33, 33, 33.3. You know what I mean? Like, it's just 33.3 across the board. If it's 2 people worked on it, it's 50-50. For as far as, at least when it comes to publishing and splits. Well, obviously, you start working with different artists, higher up artists, they're going to start saying, all right, well, I want 70%. And it's like, you didn't do anything.
Right.
They've earned it. They've earned that leverage.
Right. I hear that. And then
usually nice and even.
And then what about within the business itself? I know you've got the studios and then also the record label. How is that organized? I know you founded it, both, Ashton, but was that a weird situation in terms of figuring out how the team's going to work?
Not at all. Not at all. We all know exactly what we do. We have roles in here, from engineering to different aspects of, the services that we do offer. Right. So we know exactly what each other are going to get paid from it. Part of the trust and communication with each other is super key. We know exactly what the project's going to entail. We know, okay, this is the budgets. This is what we're going to do. This is what each person gets paid. Right. And so we have the understanding. We have a system in place in terms of, how we make money. Right. So I think it's in terms of starting a business, and if you're doing it with people, make sure how much you're going to charge, how much you're going to get paid, what's your profit, what are your expenses from this, and then once you have that there, then it's smooth sailing. You just have to adapt to different situations, different projects,
right?
And everybody eats at the end of the day.
It's being transparent, right? And that's the thing, because we don't hide anything from each other. So I think that, and maybe we're different than other situations, just because we know each other so well. We're always just open and honest and transparent. That's why everything kind of just flows naturally for us. So we don't really have hiccups like that.
Right.
Have to have hard conversations about maybe Nucky should take more on this one, or Ashton should. We just know, because okay, he's doing the work, he deserves that.
And it depends on every artist is different. Every artist comes in with a different, some artists literally just need mixing. They don't even need to record. So if it's mixing, obviously we know I don't need a piece of the mixing pie. That's not my gig.
Right.
But if an artist comes in and says, well, I need cover art done, and I got to do photography. I need to get some photos done for press, and then I also need to shoot a music video. Well, then BC knows, all right, well, that's Nucky's realm, so he'll do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So where did you get the experience for coming up with the financial breakdowns? Was that almost an experiment? I'm going to charge this person this amount, and then I'm going to pay you, the client, this and this, whatever.
It always changes, at some point. What did you charge me for my very first project?
I think it was like $600.
I think it was about $600.
And we did
with tax or something.
Like 12 songs.
12 songs, I think.
Yeah, and that was everything, recording, editing, mixing, mastering,
that's a
stuff
good deal.
like that. Yeah, exactly. Hold on a second.
That is a deal.
Oh, it was, man. And then now I probably am in the hole with him. $100,000 now for all the work that he's done.
We're a $250,000 at least.
That's just
the guy owes me his life.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so a lot of it is trial and error, and just seeing what works. And okay, well, you realize you're putting more into a project than you initially anticipated. So okay, well, maybe I should charge a little bit more. But then it's that healthy balance, because sometimes if your schedule's not booked up, then you're like, maybe I got to take this project, so I might have to do it for a little less. But then you might get into a space where you do get booked up for a while, so then you have a little bit of wiggle room. So you're like, what? Maybe I could start charging a little bit more because I'm more in demand.
Got you.
So, so it's just over the years, just a lot of trial and error. But then now, because it's just more than one person, so now you have 3 people, and if you're working with one artist and they need 3 services, now it's okay, you kind of look at bundle packages, because your rate, and then it's fitting that in and letting these people know these are the actual true expenses, and sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It's just a lot of this up, down, and side to side.
Play-Doh.
It's also, it's never been about let's milk the artist for every single thing they're worth. So for people that are starting a business, it's understanding, at least coming from our experience, and this isn't necessarily a categorical absolute truth across the board, but sometimes the ones that you do the most for are the ones that financially are paying the least, but they become so demanding over time. So just something to keep in mind, you want to work within, you want to be reasonable. If an artist can't afford something, you want to work with them, because you also want to help them reach their goals. But at the same time, don't sell yourself short because of that.
Be aware. Awesome. What has been the highlight of your careers so far? I've got a specific example from BC, but I'm curious. I can hit you with the example. I'm curious about the story of Hit Factory.
Oh, true. That's a crazy experience that we've all done together. I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for this guy, right? So
interesting.
Originally, those people that we were working with, and that's how we met Ashton through all that stuff too. But we were always working on our own stuff, and then we were working with this company, and he was coming. They wanted to work with him on the creative side, just building his music up. But his biggest thing was like, well, I already have my own engineer. I got BC and stuff like that. So he's like, he didn't see where the value lied. And, that's when he was riding for me when he didn't have to. He could have easily like jumped ship and just done the own thing and left me in the wind.
Right.
But he was like, no, he's like, this is my guy. So that kind of brought me into the fold with that. And, there were opportunities that presented themselves through that for me to work down there all the time. And I said no, because I was like, this is my guy. Like we're building our stuff together. So I did that, and like we just through and through this road together. And yeah, when we were down there working, it was a great experience. Definitely learned a lot. But like to me, that was like it's cool because it's like studio, but like you can make music anywhere, right? Like I have just probably more fun working in the basement, the workspace, or working here than in there. It's got a lot of cool buttons and shit.
Yeah. No, it's very nice.
A big highlight for me personally is this place.
Yeah.
This is just a space where we can come in. We got a rehearsal space out back. We got the photo video area. Anytime I can come in here and do whatever I want. No one else has to be. I can just set up my camera and do shots myself if I wanted to. That freedom to come in here.
That's awesome.
Do whatever we want. So just the ability to have a space like this is something I'm super, super grateful for.
I would say bringing in the Genelec speakers.
Oh my God.
What was that? I didn't hear that one.
I would say bringing in the Genelec speakers was the highlight.
This guy. So
that's awesome.
When you actually asked the question about like, I think it was about like budgeting and something like that with your studio and the operations. So yeah, like when we built this space, we're looking at different things, equipment, just things that we needed for the whole place.
Converters.
Converters. So we're looking at gear. Ashton wanted these lovely speakers. You can't really see them, they're off camera, but very expensive speakers. And I was like, okay, well, they're cool, but that's not going to make things sound good.
But they bang, though.
Yes. So
they bang, though.
Which they do.
Yes, they do. And artists love them. And I'm like, that's part of the equation. But I'm like, there's other pieces of gear that we need and other things where I'm like, maybe that's not the most important thing. But we understand, like, how that is for artists and, hearing back their music and stuff. So.
There's only 5 of them in Canada, just putting that out there. So.
No, it was serious, man. I think they sell 1 pair in Canada a year.
Yeah.
Get out of here. What?
Yeah, they're from Finland. Yeah.
They are very amazing.
Yep.
But they're not the be all and end all. But no, like it's dope to like now I'm gonna pitch or pivot. But yeah, like it's dope that we have something like that here. And like this whole space, we can't really show you it here, but like we've customized it. You look at this door where we have all these names scattered over it, the people that have been here in just the 2 years. And like that's amazing to see. And then we kind of have like our jerseys up there that we've retired in the Raptors. And it's just amazing that we were able to do something like this. Because, I would have never expected that in my wildest dreams. And
awesome.
Like, I'm so thankful for both of these guys because like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for both of them. And I think they would share the same sentiment. And, Ashton, he's taken a lot of risks to build this stuff so that we can do the things that we do. So
fair.
I think that means more to me than working anywhere in the world.
That's awesome. It is more meaning to the location that you have now. It's a home instead of a house,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's cool.
100%.
Very cool. Gentlemen, we're at the very end of the show. I'm asking you guys for any closing remarks that you may have. I know we ask a lot.
Be a good person, be kind to others, and just follow your happiness, man. It's real simple for me.
Same, I would say. Yeah, just like believe in yourself. And as you go through this journey of trying to do like, be an entrepreneur or be a creative, people will look at you like you're crazy and like, oh, like that's cool. Like, keep doing your music and stick with it and just really do it. Cause people don't see your vision. Right. And just cause it's not their thing doesn't mean it can't work for you. And believe in yourself and surround yourself with like-minded people that are trying to accomplish, similar goals as you. And just do that. And, you can get to the promised land eventually.
Mm-hmm. Don't settle, go hard, grind, take care of your mental health, be happy. And you'll achieve anything you want to achieve.
What about being grumpy? Are you allowed to be grumpy or not?
Oh, 1,000%.
Oh, yeah.
Grumpiest of all of us. Yes.
BC, I got a couple short questions for you before we end. They're producer-specific questions. What is your favorite outboard?
Oh, okay. My outboard piece of gear. Well, I'm very fortunate. Ashton was a great human and bought me a BAE 1073 preamp. And he bought me the Imperial Labs Distressor. So I love that compressor. I am a big fan of the Tube Tech. Not now I'm all these things. Now you're taking me down this rabbit hole. But there's so many different things. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. No, my favorite piece of gear is definitely my 1073.
And why?
I just like the way it kind of colors the instruments. I guess I mainly use it for vocals.
Yeah.
And I sound like a gear slut. Sorry, you have to edit that. But yeah, like it just has a nice coloration to it. And I just like to have a little bit of control when I'm recording something in, right? Because those little things go a long way in the end process. So yeah, like we keep, and our studio's very lean. Like we don't have like tons of outboard gear because like you don't want to like make yourself go poor trying to do this stuff.
Right.
Like you can keep it simple. But yeah, like I just have, basic preamp with EQ and then some compression just to kind of tame the vocals going in. And then I do a lot of my suturing in the box.
Nice. Do you have a preferred mic?
Well,
Recording
actually,
mic?
you can see we have the Townsend Labs Sphere mic. And it actually, so it's one capsule, but it emulates different mics. So it has like the Sony C800, it's got SM57. It's got like probably 12 to 15 different mic emulations in there.
Whoa.
So I can put this on and then I can filter through different mics to try and find different ones that will work for different instruments, whether it be a vocal. Yeah, it's pretty.
I haven't come across that yet.
Yeah, look it up from Townsend Labs is the name of the company. And that was actually Ashton's idea to buy that mic. And,
brilliant, man.
Because we were thinking about building up the locker cabinet, but we decided to go with this mic. So we kind of have a bunch in there that we can choose from for different artists.
Yeah.
So use it with gear as well?
Yep. You can use it on, guitars, piano, all that type of stuff.
That's super versatile.
There were challenges when we first got it because it's such a new mic. There's not a whole lot of troubleshooting that you can find online. So you have to kind of go directly to Townsend and say, hey, we're having this issue. What can we do?
Yeah, we actually worked with them to help figure out some of their issues when we were building it because they weren't used to running it through like the BAE and through the equipment. So we actually kind of helped them discover some new things.
That's cool. Really cool. That's big. So you're securing on that sponsorship next, eh?
That's right. You need that. They got to send me all the equipment.
Townsend. Come on now.
That's jokes.
Everybody buy Townsend Labs.
Awesome. Townsend Labs. Where can our listeners find you on social media?
For me,
or websites, whichever you like.
On my website is uansound.com. If you find me on Instagram, it's _BC_. Then our studio, I'll let Ashton take over.
Our studio's Instagram is at Kingdom Studios with the Y. Don't forget, Kingdom Studios with the Y. You can find us at kingdomstudios.com. My personal Instagram is at Ashton Adams Music, and my website is Ashton Adams Music as well.
And I'm Official Nucky across everything. Twitter,
Official Nucky.
officialnucky.com, Instagram, Official Nucky. Kept it consistent across the board for the ease and simplicity.
Yes, very easy. I will also add all of that information to the show notes, so if you're not one to listen and write or watch and write, we got you covered. Just make sure to check out the show notes at goproduce.ca, but more information on that later. I want to say thank you so much to our listeners. We're here to entertain and to educate. That's what our goal is, and I hope that we can do that for you. Thank you so much, Grumpy Sound Guy. You were fun. You didn't time in as much, but that's probably because we did an awesome job. Prevail Media Group. Yep, Prevail Media Group.
Hey, Prevail.
We're out here. Thank you for the gear, the setup, the time, the energy. It's been fantastic. And gentlemen, all three of you were a pleasure to have. I learned so much. Out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace be with you. Thank you for listening. If you found any value in this episode and you want to learn more from our content, check out our website at goproduce.ca. If you're on Instagram, check out our handle at go.produce. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, hit download. If you're on Apple Music, leave a review. This will all help us grow our community. I'm Big Lou, and this is Go Produce.